Hello, Hidden Gems. I always seem to start each nightly recap with this, but even jury selection is not anything mundane when Lori Daybell is involved, and today was no exception. First, I just want you to know a jury has been seated and trial will continue. A couple days ago, we were worried there might be a delay. No. Judge Bresky took control of his courtroom, and Lori Daybell, he is back in control, and she is not. Or maybe she thinks she is. I don't know. Before we get into everything that happened today, we are going to bring you the entire full recap. We have the notes. I am proud to say that Hidden True Crime brings you everything you need to know when it comes to jury selection, and we've got that for you today. Before we do, you guys have been asking us, and here it is. Here is your new trial merch. Take a look at this. All right. I think I'll pass on that sweatshirt, t-shirt, and one more design. All right. I think I'll pass on that. These are now available in our merchandise shop. This is by popular demand. We have it. There you go. Thank you, Judge Boreski, for everybody's favorite line of the trial so far. I have a feeling there will be even more, but that one, yeah, I think I'll pass on that after Lori Daybell invited the judge to her cell to find out just how sick she was. No thanks, I'll pass. Well, now let's get into what happened today, because we walked into the courthouse this morning to a wave of speculation. Word was spreading fast. Would Lori actually show up today? According to the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, she wouldn't be appearing unless there was a signed order forcing her to appear. But Hidden True Crime got the scoop. An order had been signed. So yes, Lori Vallow was coming to court not by choice, but by force. Judge Boreski was clearly done playing games. He was back in control of his courtroom. Now, we didn't get to see her enter live in person. Media wasn't allowed in yet, but court footage later revealed Lori making her entrance. And let me tell you, she wasn't exactly striding in with confidence. She was hobbling. And I don't use that word lightly. Let's roll the clip. Let's play that one more time. I guess I don't even need to mute myself. There's no, oh, look at that. Standing up straight, standing up straight. Oh, remembering to bend over. I mean, at least that's how I take it. That's how a lot of you took it in comments too. I'll be honest. Hobbling into court. Now maybe it is just me, as I just pointed out, but did anybody else notice how Lori seemed to walk in with halfway decent posture until she remembered she was supposed to look sick? Cue the sudden hunch and limp. We actually, again, shared that moment as a short on our channel. And let's just say your comments, they made my day. Thank you. If you haven't checked those out, go head to that short and look at those comments. Judge Boreski kicked things off by addressing the elephant in the room right after court adjourned on Monday. He had said that he had sent an order to the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. Lori was to be evaluated by medical staff immediately. And sure enough, she was. The evaluation happened the very next afternoon around 12:30 p.m. That's then when a representative from the sheriff's office stood up in court today. He confirmed that Lori had indeed been evaluated. She was treated for one condition. But from a medical standpoint, there was no reason she couldn't be in court. He even offered to give more details, but Judge Boreski didn't bite. He had what he needed. And Lori, her top concern wasn't her mystery illness. It was making sure that Maricopa County Sheriff's Office's medical findings were sealed. That's what she spoke up about, not her symptoms, not her condition, just keeping the report confidential. Judge Boreski agreed to seal it. Then, turning to Lori, he asked, do you have anything to add? Any reason you believe you can't proceed? And what happened next? Well, we'll get to that in just a minute, but you can watch this exchange here. Look at this.
Daybell for the defense.
All right, I'm going to need you to scoot up to that microphone. We also have present in the courtroom a representative from the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. Do you want to announce?
Yes, Your Honor. Joseph V. Hill on behalf of the Sheriff's Office and Correctional Health Services.
All right, after court on Monday, immediately after court, I ordered the Sheriff's Office to provide some sort of medical assessment of the defendant. I received a pleading late yesterday afternoon indicating that Correctional Health Services examined the defendant around 12:30 p.m. yesterday. The defendant was treated for one condition, and Correctional Health Services has indicated that from a medical standpoint, we do not find any clinical indications to miss court. Is that correct, Mr. Vigil?
Yes, Your Honor, and we have additional information if you need it, but it's not much. But
all right. All right, let me turn to the defendant.
This is like a HIPAA violation coming up.
Your Honor, first of all, can all of this be sealed? Anything that having to do with my medical? I don't think that's something that all of this needs to be sealed, including the minute entry and
hold on,
the response from MCSO, all these things.
I can seal the response from MCSO, yeah, but to the extent, well, do you have any other information you want to provide me as to why you're not medically able to proceed? Right now, the only objective information I have is that you were assessed and CHS sees no clinical indications of why you need to miss court.
They told me
If it's something you want to discuss on sidebar, we can do that.
that would be great.
And that is what they did, a brief sidebar. But it wasn't really actually brief. It lasted quite a while. But when Judge Boreski returned to the bench, he made one thing crystal clear. This trial was moving forward. He announced that jury selection would proceed as planned because Lori had provided no objective reason, none, no reason why she couldn't participate in the trial, her trial. He said he'd decide later whether to move into opening statements today or wait until tomorrow, depending on how things went. But either way, the stall tactics, done. The courtroom charades, over. Boreski was officially back in the driver's seat. And now, Lori had insisted again that she had a headache and could not possibly continue that hobbling. That's what I do when I have a headache, right? I don't know whether it was a headache or a backache, but the judge pointed out the obvious, that she had just spent the last several minutes clearly, calmly, and honestly quite eloquently advocating for herself. So yeah, she seemed just fine to him. Translation, if you can talk the talk, you can sit through jury selection. But Lori was being Lori, and she wasn't done just yet. She stood up and said, quote, "Your Honor, I can't stand for the jury," end quote. Judge Boreski didn't miss a beat. He simply told her with a tone that said it all, quote unquote, "How you choose to present yourself to the jury is entirely up to you." In other words, you do you, Lori, you do you. And with that, the court took a brief recess while they waited on 6 potential jurors who still had not arrived. And during the recess, Judge Boreski walked back in for a minute, and we could hear him talking to Lori and her advisory attorney, Abernathy, about ibuprofen. Now, this was interesting. So the judge and Abernathy having this exchange, Abernathy sitting next to Lori. Abernathy said something about how they couldn't force Lori to take the ibuprofen, and Judge Boreski said he was simply offering it. Abernathy seemed to actually have quite a stern tone with Judge Boreski from what I could see sitting in the gallery. They continued to go back and forth for a bit longer before Judge Boreski, who was seemingly just trying to help and now maybe a little bit frustrated, walked out. sort of like this, like whatever. And he just sort of sauntered out. Once the potential jurors were finally brought in, things got rolling. They were sworn in, and Judge Boreski jumped right into his portion of voir dire, the part where the judge does the initial screening. He started with the basics, what we've been waiting for now for 3 days. The judge finally started. This is what he asked. Quote, "Is there anyone who can't hear everything I just said? Anyone who doesn't read or speak English fluently? Anyone who isn't a U.S. citizen or a resident of Maricopa County?" And not a single hand went up. So far, so good. And next, Judge Boreski introduced himself and his courtroom staff, and then asked if any of the jurors knew them personally. And again, no one raised their cards. Their juror numbers are on the cards. That's what they raise. Then it was Trina Kay's turn, prosecutor Trina Kay. She introduced herself, her paralegal, Tiffany Martinez, and Officer Ryan Pilar from the Gilbert Police Department. The judge also asked if anyone recognized Rachel Mitchell, the Maricopa County attorney, and still crickets. So far, so good. But then came the real test, scheduling and money. Judge Boreski explained that court would now be held this Friday. And while he hoped that the trial could wrap up by the end of next week, if it didn't, jurors would need to return on June 23rd and possibly even June 24th. And as for compensation, jurors in Maricopa County can be reimbursed up to $300 a day plus $12 for transportation, but only if they can prove those lost wages. And that's when the cards started going up. Juror 21 was the first. They're flying to France for a wedding on the 24th. And honestly, they've been very vocal about this wedding, like repeatedly vocal. This isn't a side note for them. This is the note. Juror 28 explained that she's currently unemployed and has been picking up freelance work to stay afloat. She's already had to turn down gigs just to be here for the last 3 days. Juror 34 had a medical appointment on the books for this Friday, an appointment they've had for 3 months, actually, and missing it would mean waiting months to get back into this specialist. Juror 76 had plans to go to Flagstaff this weekend to look for a new apartment, Friday, Saturday-ish. Wants to check out that Flagstaff apartment. The official appointment is on Saturday, not Friday, but he was hoping to head up on Friday. And then there was Juror 67, a self-employed nanny. While her client submitted a letter verifying her income, she does not pay taxes until the end of the year, so technically she wouldn't see reimbursement until the end of the year. Financially, that's a strain. So between international travel, doctor's appointments, Flagstaff rentals, and nanny tax logistics, the courtroom quickly turned into a scheduling mess. And we were just getting started. Next, Judge Boreski asked the jurors to quietly answer a question in their minds. Quote, "The state has charged the defendant with a crime, and she has pleaded not guilty. At this point in time, how would you answer as to her guilt?" End quote. He presented 3 possible answers to this question. So now we're talking multiple choice. So A, probably guilty because she was charged. B, you don't know. C, not guilty because no evidence has been presented. The judge then explained that the correct answer, legally and constitutionally, is C, because no evidence has been presented yet. The law presumes the defendant is not guilty. And if the jury were required to vote in this moment, the only proper verdict would be not guilty. He asked if anyone didn't understand that principle, didn't agree with it, or felt they could not follow it. No jurors raised their cards. He also asked if anyone believed that Lori was guilty simply because she had been charged, or if anyone did not understand that Lori has the right to testify or to remain silent without that being held against her, whatever she decides. Again, no cards were raised. Judge Boreski then explained how jurors should weigh the credibility of testimony and evidence. He encouraged them to use the same standards of truthfulness that they rely on in daily life. That includes considering a witness's ability to see, hear, or know the facts they testify to, any potential motives or biases, contradictions in their words or actions, and the overall reasonableness of their statements. He also made it clear that law enforcement officers are to be held to the same standard as anyone else on the stand. Their uniform doesn't guarantee truth. They must be evaluated just like any other witness. Next, He asked if any jurors had close ties to law enforcement, and here is what they shared. Juror 9. His uncle works for a sheriff's office. They are fairly close, but he felt it wouldn't affect his impartiality. Juror 22. His daughter retired as a detective last year. He doesn't speak with her about cases and didn't believe it would impact his role. Excuse me. Juror 35. Her husband is currently in the police academy, but she believes she could be fair. Juror 55. Her boyfriend is a police officer, but again, she said she could remain unbiased. Juror 84. Her husband is a detention officer with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, and her brother is also a police officer. Still, she stated she could be impartial. Juror 85. His brother-in-law is a retired officer from Chicago, but he also indicated it would not influence him. Judge Boreski also asked if anyone had connections to the legal field, and 2 jurors spoke up. Juror 66. She works as an intern at a family law firm, mostly as a receptionist, but has started learning how to do draft legal documents. Juror 62. Her aunt and uncle both work in corporate law. And then came a reminder about courtroom conduct. Jurors were instructed not to research anything about the case. Again, they're asked this a lot. Not to speak about it to anyone, and not to consume any media coverage related to this case. He said they could tell others they were serving on the jury, but nothing more. Judge Boreski shared an anecdote from a past case where a younger juror had asked, wait, you mean to tell me that I can't go on TikTok or Instagram this whole time? And he clarified, no, they're not being asked to give up their social media habits entirely, but they absolutely cannot look up anything related to this case or the people involved. And to close out the questioning, the judge gave jurors one last opportunity to raise their cards if they had any other issues that might prevent them from serving, something that they hadn't disclosed in their questionnaire. And he emphasized how important it is to be honest during jury selection. He noted that sometimes people don't fully answer their questionnaires, only to reveal conflicts after being brought in, delaying the process and impacting everyone involved. And with that, Judge Boreski turned it over to prosecutor Trina Kay, who began her own round of questioning. And we're going to get to that, but let me take a quick drink. Guys, there's a lot going on here. All right. So prosecutor Trina Kay took over with voir dire with a calm but firm tone that is typical of prosecutor Trina Kay, beginning by reminding the jury of something important. The defendant is representing herself. Yes, Lori Vallow has chosen to serve as her own attorney, but she does have support. She has an advisory council, a paralegal, and an investigator assisting her. Still, Trina made it clear, quote, even though she is representing herself, she is required to follow the rules of law, rules of criminal procedure, and rules of evidence, end quote. She then asked the jurors, number 1, is there anyone who might give Lori more leeway, more benefit of the doubt because she is not a trained lawyer? Is there anyone who might hold the state to a higher burden of proof because she's representing herself? Or anyone who would feel uncomfortable if the state objects to things Lori says or does simply because Lori doesn't know the law? No one raised their cards. Then Trina explained the charges Lori is facing, and she didn't waste any time getting direct. Quote, is there anyone here who thinks that since Lori is not the shooter, there's no way they could convict her, end quote. No one raised their card. She then asked, quote, if there is no video of Lori admitting to the crime, is there anyone here who feels they couldn't convict her, end quote. Again, no response. Then she addressed the heart of the conspiracy charge. Quote, you are going to be told the victim, Brandon Boudreaux, is not dead, that this conspiracy did not succeed. He lived. Is there anyone here who would say, well, he didn't die, so there couldn't have been a conspiracy to kill him, end quote. Still, no juror raised a card. Trina next brought up the extensive media coverage surrounding the case. mentioning news outlets, podcasts, bloggers. She asked if any juror would struggle to avoid media exposure, especially if something popped up on their phone. It happens, right? No hands, no cards. She reminded them, as Judge Bresky had, that they could not talk about the case with anyone, and then asked plainly, is there anyone here who believes they wouldn't be able to go home and keep this case to themselves? No one raised a card. And next, she brought up the LDS Church, also known as the Mormon Church. She brought up both of those names. She asked if any jurors had strong views, positive or negative, that would make it difficult to sit through a trial involving people and that faith. Once again, no hands. And then came a curveball. This was interesting. Here we go. Quote, Brandon Boudreaux was driving a Tesla when he was shot at, she said. Given the current political climate, would the fact that he was driving a Tesla impact your ability to fairly judge this case? End quote. Clearly referring to Elon Musk and the political climate. Still, no hands. Good to go. No bias towards Teslas. She then moved into final logistics. Trina explained that the testimony in this case would not be presented in chronological order due to the availability of various witnesses, including some flying in. And remember, this jury selection has gone 2 days longer than anticipated. She had people ready to testify on Monday, and she had to switch flights. So now she's saying, look, due to various witnesses, including some flying in, she asked if that non-linear structure would confuse or frustrate anyone. No juror raised concerns. And finally, she posed a serious and fundamental question. As a juror, your job is to pass judgment, to determine whether or not the defendant is guilty. Does anyone here have a background, religious belief, or personal conviction that would make it difficult for them to pass judgment? End quote. No one raised a card. And with that, Trina K concluded her questioning. And next up, what we've all been waiting for, it was Lauren Daybell's turn to ask her questions. Oh boy, and it was great. So good to see so many of you here. Before we get into Lauren Daybell's questions that she asked these potential jurors, I do want to thank our trial sponsor, Beam Dream. They are supporting our trial coverage once again. They help us crash at night after very intense days, to say the least, very fast-paced days, very rush days when we're yelling, hurry, hurry, hurry. And we are loving the new cherry berry flavored Beam Dream. And I'm not even kidding. It's actually incredible. The only downside of a hot drink is when we're in Phoenix and when it's summer. And that's when I actually have made the Dream Mix into popsicles, chocolate popsicles. So like I take the typical hot powder drink that I have, I froth it, and I have made like chocolate delicious popsicles. That was always like my summer go-to. But now I can actually have a cold iced drink. We put this over water and ice, just a scoop in the evenings, and we enjoy it. We give a toast. And when I say we, I'm referring to my producer, Grayson, and myself, and we drink our Beam together. It is amazing. It is healthy. It is keto friendly, dairy free, vegan, actually. Even dairy free matters in our family. It has L-theanine. It has melatonin. It has iron. It has magnesium. It has reishi mushroom. It is an awesome drink, flavor sweetened with monk fruit, all natural. And as somebody asked about coloring, it is actually naturally colored as well. It has some beet in it for a red powder. It's delicious. The link should be in the description of this episode as well as pinned in comments. If it's not, we'll do that right now. Yeah, for sponsors. Exactly. I genuinely want to say it is amazing. We pick our sponsors carefully, and they are no exception. We love Dream. So back to Lauren. And I'm going to take one more drink, guys. Bear with me. Hold on one second. I'm here, guys. I'm here. You know what I did? I have to be honest. I turned off the camera because I'm a little embarrassed. I have a bit of asthma and I just use an inhaler. So thank you for being patient. That's what happens with lives. You guys get the real deal. For our podcast, we edit it down. This will be edited. You guys see it all in real time. So I'm allergic to something in Phoenix. Thank you. All right. So during jury selection for Charles Vallow's case, Lori had stood up, introduced herself. So this was just a month ago or a couple months ago now. So during that jury selection for Charles Vallow's case, Lori had stood up, introduced herself, and then eased into her questions. Not this time. This time she skipped the pleasantries entirely. No introduction, no, I'm Lauren Daybell, and dove straight in. And her first question, quote, I know that people might not recognize a name on a questionnaire, but now that we're all together, have any of you seen me? End quote. No juror raised their cards. Next, she asked if any jurors had served on a jury before, and 3 cards went up. Juror 49, 45, and 46. And at this point, Judge Boreski gently cut in, noting that technically he should have already asked about prior jury service. There's a set of questions printed on the back of every juror's card, and they hadn't gone through those yet. He assured the court he'd circle back to those responses later, which he did, and we will circle back to those responses later as well. They were interesting, and we will save those for the end of this live. Lori then moved on. Her next question came with a personal twist, quote, this is a question I love, she said. And yes, her voice, by the way, was sweet. It was elevated. It was nice. It was not sick Lori. This was pleasant Lori. Although she remained seated, she didn't stand for anything, didn't stand for the jury, didn't stand for the judge, didn't stand for these questions. But her voice was pleasant, kind, warm, sweet. We know that she's not those things. I'm just explaining what her voice was. And so she says, quote, this is a question I love. Is there anything happening or going on right now that might distract you from concentrating on your duties? I know we've had that before. End quote. It hung in the air for a moment, but no jurors raised their cards. But let's talk about this. Did she just essentially admit to having another trial? Let me read that one more time. I want to know this. Is there anything happening or going on right now that might distract you from concentrating on your duties? I know we've had that before. End quote. It was an odd moment. You know, I don't know if the jury would take it like that. They could take it as other potential jurors. I don't know, but it was an interesting moment. She almost just gave away that there was another trial or 2 because they've had this issue with past juries. Interesting, right? Next question. Is there anyone here that being on a jury is something you've always wanted to do, like a bucket list thing? No? That's what she said. Like a bucket list thing. No cards were raised. So no one has in their bucket list, taped to their refrigerator, serve on a, high profile murder trial. No cards were raised. Then she said, the law says I am innocent of this crime until proven guilty. Is there anyone that doesn't understand or agree with that? No jurors raise their cards. Lori then asks anyone that would have difficulty forming their own opinion and then sticking to it. And at this point, Judge Boreski steps in asking if there's anyone who would consider themselves able to be influenced by someone, like maybe if they're having a political argument and they would eventually give up. And he asked, quote, if you felt the state didn't prove their case, could you stick to that or give in and vote guilty? End quote. No cards were raised. Back to Lori. If all others opposed you, could you stick to your own guns? Like, guys, okay. Listen to this. Quote, if all others opposed you, could you stick to your own guns on what was presented here at trial? End quote. No cards were raised implying that yes, they could all stick to their own guns. But interesting choice of words there, right? Could you stick to your own guns. Well played, Lori. Lori then says, quote, raise your hand if you've had any other courtroom experience besides being on a jury, end quote. A few jurors raised their hands, and here is what all of the jurors that raised their hands said. We have the deets. Juror 15 got a felony DUI 13 years ago, but he clarified that his juror rights are reinstated. Lori asked him how he thought that experience would affect him being on a jury, and he replied, quote, I was at fault, so it was due process, end quote. Juror 43 went through a custody trial 20 years ago in another country, or another county, excuse me. But it's nothing that would affect the ability to be fair or be a juror at all. Juror 79 had a misdemeanor DUI a few years back, and Lori asked if there was anything about that experience that would influence his ability to be a juror, and his response was that it felt uncomfortable and he felt rushed through it, so he went along with whatever the sentence was. Judge Boreski then stepped in, asking if this juror felt like he had gotten taken advantage of, and he said a little bit. So then Judge Boreski continued with some questioning, because that was an interesting answer, and asked, do you think that that would affect your ability to be fair, or could you set this aside? And juror 79 replied that actually he was not sure if he could set this aside. Lori responded very sweetly, thank you for your honesty. I appreciate it, end quote. Juror 82 went through a custody battle, but nothing that would affect the ability to serve. Juror 10 said he had a misdemeanor DUI 10 plus years ago, but it would not affect his ability. And when Lori asked what his experience was like, he responded, quote, standard process, went and did what I was told and got through it, end quote. So Lori could really take a few pages out of his book, if you think about it. Juror 27 was after juror 10 and quickly said, quote, same thing, DUI, went through that process and got through it, end quote. When Lori followed up by asking if there was anything about that process that would impact his ability to be a juror, he said, quote, not really, it was quick. One woman in the front of the jury box also raised her card and said that she went through a custody battle, but nothing that would impede her to serve on this jury. Lori's next question was, is there anything that would stand in the way of making you be fair and impartial of me? No cards were raised. She then said, raise your hand if you think someone charged with a crime is automatically guilty or has at least a percentage of guilt no matter what. No cards were raised. And then she shifted her focus over to guns, back to guns, saying, in this case, we'll be talking a lot about guns. Is there anyone who owns a gun? 14 jurors raised their cards. Jurors 7, 8, 10, 26, 27, 28, 34, 3, 5, 46, 50, 82, 84, 80, and 88. She then said, along those lines, can you raise your number if you've ever been to a shooting range? Because I just want to point out that I think this implies that a lot of the evidence will be the fact that Alex Cox, her co-conspirator, went to a shooting range to prepare for the event, because that is in the FOIA documents that are on our Patreon page, patreon.com/hiddentruecrime. We have all of the Arizona documents, and a big part of the evidence is indeed Alex Cox showing up to shooting ranges. So have any of you ever been to shooting ranges? 31 jurors raised their cards, which I'm sure made Lori quite content, because if they go to shooting ranges all the time, why would they think that this was even evidence of Alex Cox planning something? Am I right? I'm sure that's what she's thinking. Well, 31 jurors raised their cards, and the jurors were 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15, 25, 26, 27, 28, 34, 35, 41, 43, 45, 46, 47, 50, 55, 62, 72, 74, 76, 77, 69, 80, 82, 85, 88. More than I'd actually expected. Lori then asked any jurors with extensive gun knowledge to raise their hands, and juror 7 raised his hand and said that he grew up with a father who was a professional gunsmith. Lori responded, quote, oh, a gunsmith. What was your experience like growing up like that with him? End quote. And guys, and this is really how sort of sweet she was, all jury selection. And he explained that he learned a lot about firearms. Lori asked him if he was someone that frequents the shooting range, and he said yes. She then asked if he felt like the knowledge he had would be an asset or might distract him. And Trina K objected to this, and Lori was told to rephrase that question. And when she rephrased it, Trina K objected once again. And so Judge Boreski jumped in and asked him, this potential juror, if he could follow the instructions that will be given to him, even if he thinks he knows better. And he responded, yes, I can. Juror 25 raised her hand and said she was an Army veteran and was familiar with a lot of different weapons. Lori asked what years she was in the Army, and she said 2000 to 2005 during the Iraqi war, actually. And Lori then asks, were you deployed? And the juror says that she was indeed deployed. And Lori finishes off by saying, quote, wow, oh, wow, thank you for your service, end quote. I am grateful for that juror's service, but when that comes from Lori during voir dire, I have different feelings, especially since she's hobbling and won't even stand for them to do this questioning. But thank you for your service. I just won't stand for you to respect you enough to do that. But wow, you're wonderful. Juror 82 also raised her card and explained that she was in the Army for 3 months and also sold firearms. She said she goes to the shooting range about once every 6 months. And next question, is there anyone that has a close person in their family that has ever served on a jury? Juror 37's mom served on a jury. Lori asked, how did that affect you with your mom serving on that jury? And jury 37 responded, it has not affected me at all. Juror 47's mom also served on a jury, but they don't remember anything. Juror 71 said their mother has served twice. Lori asked if she had a good experience, and he said that, yeah, she did have a good experience. She then asked if his mom's experience would have any effect on his jury service, to which he replied, I want to say it wouldn't, but I wouldn't be able to answer with 100% confidence, end quote. Judge Boreski did some follow-up because that was an interesting answer, and the juror couldn't figure out how it would ever impact his service. Judge Boreski made some solid points, I guess, and the juror's like, yeah, I don't really know how it could impact my service. Good point. Lori ended with him by saying, quote, thank you for your honesty. I really appreciate it, end quote. Juror 35's mom served on a jury. Juror 88's mother also served 20 plus years ago. She was probably living at home at the time, this juror, but she did not know her mother was serving during that time. Juror 88 has had 2 children who have served in the last 2 years. And when asked how their experience was, he said that they're young, so he thought it was kind of fun for them and that they enjoyed serving. Lori then asks, is there anything we haven't asked you that you think might affect your jury service? And at this time, Juror 72 raised their card and said, quote, I've noticed that you haven't asked the question if anyone has ever been convicted or has served in a trial at all, or been convicted or actually been a part of a trial. Judge Boreski explained that was indeed question 20 on the e-questionnaire. So they had asked it, but he could absolutely answer it at this time. And this potential juror explained that he was there during the trial of a friend who had a parole violation for having a firearm. And that because of that, he would have been a little bit biased towards the system because it felt like his friend was trying to reintegrate back into society, but the system pulled him back in, and he did not believe his friend was even guilty of this, that he didn't have the firearm, it wasn't his, he didn't own it. Lori also thanked him for his honesty, and that was the end of her questioning. Thanked him for his honesty, and I'm sure thinking to herself, can we please have this guy on the jury since he doesn't trust the system? I need someone like that. Well, the jurors were then taken out right after that for a quick recess while some housekeeping was taken care of. Judge Boreski said that juror 83 did not show up. That was one juror that just didn't show up. When they reached out to the juror through text, the juror texted back saying with all the uncertainty the last few days, they felt they needed to get back to their work schedule. And so then Judge Boreski said, well, we're going to refer them back to the jury commissioner for another jury pool. So they probably should have showed up. I guess note to all of us, show up for jury duty if you don't want to have to do it again. And then we went through the juror strikes, starting with juror 21. And that was the juror who was traveling to France. And because she had brought it up so often and seemed so worried, Judge Boreski thought it would be best to let her go. And everyone agreed. Juror 28, who was unemployed but doing freelance work for income. Juror 34 was the one with a doctor's appointment on Friday. And as for juror 76, that was the apartment hunting juror, one wanting to head to Flagstaff. The judge called his reasoning weak and flimsy and opted to keep him. Juror 67, the nanny, was excused. Juror 79 was the one with the DUI who felt they weren't treated fairly. Trina said they had indicated that on their e-questionnaire. And during all of these strikes, Judge Boreski says why he would like to release them, but the state, of course, and Lori have to agree. And this is the one where she stopped talking. There was the guy that said he didn't trust the system, right? So this guy is saying he doesn't trust the system. And like I said, I'm thinking Lori probably wants to keep this guy. And they're saying, okay, should we release this guy? The judge thinks we probably should let the guy go who doesn't trust the system. Prosecutor Trina Kay agrees. And then the judge turns to Lori because Lori has to agree. Yes, we will excuse this juror. And I'm very interested in what she's going to say because like I said, I'm thinking to myself, she wants to keep this guy. So they look at her and say, Lori, they don't say Lori, but how does the defense feel? And Lori just all of a sudden refuses to talk. Like the silence was deafening. It was awkward. I talked about it in my lunch live. Like it was long. The judge just sat there. I was even at one moment thinking, can I not hear her? Is it so soft? And maybe it was. Maybe she was hardly speaking in the microphone and we couldn't hear her, but I think there was just dead silence. She would not respond. Wait, what? What is going on? So at this point, Judge Boreski said, quote, you ready for this? Quote, just very calmly in his gray rocking sort of way, I'd like on record, quote, I would like on record, I'm simply going to observe the defendant. Her face and mannerisms appear perfectly normal when the jurors are here. But when they're not here, she can't speak, end quote. So that's on record. Juror 79 was then excused. Juror 72 was also excused. That was the friend who had a parole violation. He was excused along with juror 84, who had a spouse that was a Maricopa County Sheriff's Office detention officer. The judge opted to release her just simply out of an abundance of caution because this case could possibly come up in conversation about Lori in their house. She was excused. So then we had a lunch break before coming back in for the rest of voir dire. And I mentioned earlier that there was a set of questions Judge Boreski had forgot to go through with those jurors. These questions included what their occupation is, what their spouse or significant other's occupation is. It's sort of like a get to know you. It's like the questions you answer when you have a new job or it's the first day of school. Let's get to know one another. And they want to know about family life. If they have one, if they have a job, if they have children, and if they've ever served on a jury before. I have all of the answers for each juror. But like I said, as usual, I'm going to save that until the end because it's interesting. You get a taste of who's going to serve on this jury. And of course, we'll remove any identifying information, but you get to know these potential jurors. After going through all of those things, Judge Boreski asked the jurors one more time if they had anything else they needed to inform him of, and nobody raised their cards. He then sent the jurors out one final time while they concluded any last jury selection issues between the parties. And when they were out, Judge Boreski said 16 out of the 18 jurors in that box would be moving forward as the official jurors on this case. And that is what I had expected, because if you heard me interview Tosh, a former juror on Charles's trial just a couple months ago or a month ago, she had been in the jury box. And I hadn't realized that they had really already narrowed those jurors down. And those were the jurors that remained, give or take like a few. Same thing happened this time. The jurors in the box would be moving forward on this case. And after all the jurors were brought back in, the rest of the potential jurors who did not make it on the jury panel were dismissed, and the 16 officially chosen were sworn in without much warning. It just like happens. Like he says pretty much, hey, these jurors here, all these rows, you can leave. And then he turns to these jurors. He's like, okay, well, we have a jury now, and he swears them in. Like there's not much more to it. And I asked Tosh afterwards, by the way, as we were going down the elevator after court recessed, like what they felt during that moment. And they said that, yeah, it was shock. And so they said that this jury was probably in shock that they were the 16 chosen. Well, this jury is also more diverse than the last jury pool. If you remember, there was actually only one female on the last jury for Charles's trial, one female. Well, this jury consists of 8 men and 8 women, 50-50, 50-50, halfies. So 8 men, 8 women. And after they were sworn in, and by the way, let me say to that, maybe Lori's realized that even men find her guilty too. Judge Boreski knows she's faking it, and men decide she's guilty. So, you know, we'll even out the score, 8 men and 8 women. After they were sworn in, we went through all the jury instructions, which is quite lengthy and very legal. We didn't write all that down. And then the jurors were dismissed for the day, and they were told to come back tomorrow because they are going to be coming back every day to court for the next couple of weeks. Lori closed out the day with one final concern that on Friday, the media had zoomed in on her computer, and the judge reminded the media that they could not zoom in on her computer. And I just want to say, while that makes sense, I'm going to make a prediction. Lori has her computer right in front of her. We already can hardly see her face because the camera has to be behind her, right? And the screen, her computer is right in front of her. Sometimes it's showing evidence, sometimes it's not. I suspect she's going to keep that computer now front and center with evidence on there just to make it difficult for Court TV, who is cool, to get any solid shots. I just don't know how you avoid that computer. It's confusing. It's confusing. But it makes sense that the media shouldn't be looking at her computer. So the judge reminded the media that they could not zoom in on her computer. And with that, court was in recess, and we were officially on track for opening statements tomorrow. Dun, dun, dun. Tomorrow is going to be a very big day. And of course, we have our live stream up. This live is going to feed directly into our live stream. We hope you're all there. Troublemaker Baker will be running it. She's got her playlist. We have the emojis. Be there. It's going to be interesting. Opening statements tomorrow. As for all of the jurors' answers to the questions about their current lives and their current situation, let's go through them. They're interesting. After I take one more drink of water. Wow. And I have notes in front of me that I keep looking down on, so I'm not seeing how many people are in chat. We are starring a few of your comments. We'll get to those too. But wow. Okay. Let's go through these. It's interesting. Get to know your jury. These were potential jurors too. I don't want to identify the 16 jurors and isolate them to what they do. So I'm going to tell you every potential juror sort of, so you can kind of know. And again, any very specific identifying information I've removed. Juror 5 is a college student, home for summer, never been a juror before, currently unemployed, but said they used to work at a donut shop. This was good. To which Judge Boreski said, "Oh, donuts," and everybody laughed. 6 was a pharmacy technician, married with 2 kids, never been on a jury. 7, an elected official for a nonprofit, divorced, 5 children, never been on a jury. 8, surgical nurse, married, has served on a jury on a civil case 10 plus years ago in Texas and was the 4th person on that jury. 9, self-employed for 27 years, not married, no kids, never been on a jury. 10, a manager at a financial company, single, never been a juror. 13, food delivery person, single, never been a juror. 14, healthcare worker, 5 children, never been on a jury. 15, works for a printing company, 1 child, dating, never been on a jury. 22, retired twice, veteran, 3 children, never been on a jury. 25, account executive, married, but filed for divorce, never been on a jury. 26, electrician, married, 2 kids, never been on a jury. 27, mainline technician, single, no children, never been on a jury. 32, bartender, single, never been on a jury. 35, homemaker, married, 6 children, never been a juror. 37, night clerk, single, no kids, never sat as a juror. 39, engineering technician, single, never been on a jury. 41, self-employed, married, 1 kid, never been on a jury. 43, works in insurance, divorced but dating, sat on a criminal trial 25 years ago for an armed robbery case that they found that person guilty. 44, employed, single, never been on a jury. 45, office manager, 5 children, has sat on a jury for a criminal case for shoplifting. 46, retired RN, 3 children, has sat on a criminal case in the 90s for drug dealing. 47, works for an airline, 3 children, divorced, never been on a jury. 48, manages a fast food restaurant, not married, no children, never been on a jury. 49, director of design, married, 2 kids, has sat on a criminal case in 2018, fraud and theft. 50, bartender, engaged, never been on a jury. 51, works at a bank, 4 kids, never been on a jury. 53, asset management consultant, married, no kids, never been on a jury. 55, nurse, not married, never been on a jury. 52, insurance claims associate, not married, no kids, never been on a jury. 66, college student, intern at a law firm, not married, no kids, never been on a jury. 68, surgical technologist, not married, 2 kids, never been on a jury. 69, unemployed, married, no children, was on a minor criminal case for a jury. 71, works at a store, single, no kids, never been on a jury. 73, healthcare worker, married, never been a juror. 74, works for college testing, married, never been a juror. 76, married, no kids, never been a juror. 78, managing director, no children, not married, never been on a jury. 80, nurse, married, 5 kids, never been a juror. 82, server, 1 child, never been a juror. 85, self-employed insurance broker, married, 7 kids. And as he kept talking, Judge Bresky said, okay, the sales pitch, to which the juror said, hey, I'm trying. It says ABC. I did notice, though, Judge, that you didn't bring donuts. And everybody laughed. It was a great comeback. 88, project manager, not married, no kids, never been a juror. And there you go. I will say that this jury that is seated looks diverse. Again, 8 women, 8 men, a variety of ages. The youngest is quite young. I don't know how young. When you hit middle age, it's hard to know how old somebody is, but the youngest looks fairly young. The oldest, from what I can tell, a gentleman, looks older. So there's a variety of ages, ethnicity, and of course, half men, half women, from what we can tell. Of course, from what we can tell where we are seated. That's what it looks like. So the demographics. Anyway, I want to remind everybody that tomorrow is the live stream. So this is going to head over to the live stream. We're also going to look at some starred comments. This will feed into the live stream. We hope you join us. We have members only emojis. I want everyone to know there is actually no possible way to make emojis for YouTube and have them be public for everyone. So we appreciate those that gift memberships. We will also, as Hidden True Crime, be gifting those memberships. And so make sure, Troublemaker Bakers explained it, as well as our other moderators. Thank you to all our moderators that are here, by the way. They are so incredible. Make sure you just click your membership gifting as on your channel. It's an option in your settings. And or you can purchase a monthly membership for Hidden True Crime and become an official Hidden Gem, which we so appreciate. Everyone's a gem, whether you're a member or not, but everyone is a gem. But it is a membership, and we do members only lives. On our Patreon account, patreon.com/Hidden True Crime, I just want to remind everyone, we have all of the Arizona FOIA documents, and we're talking on nearly 1,000 pages. And so if you head to patreon.com/crime, if you want some nightly reading and to know what evidence they have, we have the full Gilbert, Arizona, Brandon Boudreaux case. Our playlist here on YouTube, the Brandon Boudreaux playlist, is also a really good place to start. It surprises me, even 6 years later, how many people are finally getting into this case and realizing how interesting this case is, especially with Lori representing herself, a serial killer representing herself, and pretending to be sick and hobbling. Someone mentioned in the comments that she needs a walker with a horn, and some handlebar streamers. I'm in. Let's raise some funds for that. But if you are wanting to get caught up, I have a really solid backstory, full story. It's the first video on the playlist that we have available. I spent a lot of time on it. I wrote it myself. I voiced it. I edited it. It's about an hour and 40 minutes because I knew it was needed. So you can check that out as well. And then you can follow along. We have that playlist and we just build the videos. We have our merchandise per your request. Thank you. I will pass. All right. I'll pass on that. Thank you, Judge Boreski, for exactly how we're feeling about Lauren Daybell. Thank you. I will take a look at some of these pinned comments. Share Bear says, great job on the emoji, troublemaker Baker. Did the jurors from the last trial also get to ask, or were they also asked similar questions? They were asked similar questions. They were a little bit more vocal. And that is what Tosh, the juror, said, the past juror said on my lunch live today, that she felt that her jury pool, potential jurors during voir dire, were a little bit more vocal. I do agree with them. Hidden True Crime. When can we meet Grayson? Well, we have met her a couple of times, and you will continue meeting her. She is part of the Hidden True Crime team. She's also sitting right next to me, but I don't think she is willing to jump on camera right now, or else I would make her. Has Lori been excommunicated from the LDS Church? That is actually a really good question. I want to make it very clear. We have absolute documentation that Chad Daybell was excommunicated from the LDS Church. We have the date he was excommunicated. It was after he was arrested. And we have the letter from the stake president in Idaho. Lori Vallow Daybell, I can only assume that as a serial killer, she has been excommunicated, or it's not called excommunication anymore in the LDS or Mormon Church. It's actually called a disfellowship or removal of membership. I don't know the exact term, but it's not excommunication anymore. They've softened the term, and which is good. And so I can only assume that she has been excommunicated, but I have never been able to confirm that with documentation. So if anybody has that, email us at hiddentruecrime@gmail.com and we can solve that once and for all. How long was she asking questions? Was it more than an hour and a half? It was not. It was actually fairly quick, which is why I think this trial is going to go fast. She asks her questions, and then when they answer, it's like she just is like, oh wow, thanks, okay, thanks for your honesty, thanks for your service, you're the best, bucket list. She doesn't say much. It's just like, yeah, yay, cool, let's get lunch. So no, it went pretty fast. Of course, she tried to prolong it once the jury headed out of the courtroom. Then Judge Boreski's like, okay, let's keep going forward. Should we, strike this juror? And then she's like, you see her real self. And you know what? Tosh, the juror, on Charles Vallow's, trial, they noted that. They noted that she is very different when in front of the jury and not in front of the jury. That was a really notable thing to them that they saw. And they were like, wow, who knew? Troublemaker said you should all see Lauren's Chad Daybell impressions. By the way, I did not star these comments. I'm just going through them in order. So I probably wouldn't have starred that one or read it because I'm not about to do a Chad Daybell impersonation today. Plus, Botox doesn't help me do any impersonations right now. So I think it's like, I don't know. He looks like a potato. They just put a potato up. The potato does a better impersonation than I do. Like, he does sit here and he has very small hands. I learned that in the trial, and they're very smooth, and they haven't seen a lot of hard labor. And you know what they say about small hands. Saying that. So Elsa says, I can't wait for Dr. John's input about today's theatrical of Mrs. Chicken Enchilada. Yeah. We've been talking to Dr. John. We said it was pretty great, and he will definitely be giving his input. Now, after I've been going in order, just posting these, now I'm before I pin these, I'm going to read them. So I just learned my lesson. Lauren, what is Lori's ultimate goal here? Why is she trying to delay this, given how adamant she has been about a speedy trial and getting back to her preferred prison in Idaho? Yeah, right. Makes you question everything she said, doesn't it? Okay, Lori, actions speak louder than words. You're full of what. This is what I think, though, that her motive is. She had learned that Judge Boreski has to go on rotations and that they had to hurry this trial up and set a date because they needed to finish by a certain month. That was in some pre-trial hearings. Judge Boreski sort of gave her a little clue. So what I think that Lori's thinking to herself, be sick, hobble, whine, pull out a wheelchair, delay this trial, and then when Judge Boreski says, well, I'm going to be your trial judge whether you like it or not, then Lori says, oh, but Judge, my speedy trial rights, you must move forward. And it reminds me very much of what I believe happened in Idaho. Lori also did not waive her speedy trial rights, which was technically a very smart move on her part because it allowed her to remove the death penalty, unlike Chatty boy, potato guy, smooth hands husband. So I think that worked in her favor, but yet what happened in Idaho, despite her not waiving her right to a speedy trial, she was able to prolong her trial still because all of a sudden she was found incompetent to stand trial, which she has now denied in Arizona. Another contradiction. She says, well, I wasn't ever really incompetent. That's not true, but she was found incompetent. So maybe she's now telling us in Arizona that it was all a ruse, right? I mean, that's how I took it. So, yeah, I think that she did this in Idaho, and I think she's doing it in Arizona. This time she can't say she's incompetent because she wants to represent herself. So she has to, hobble. I think that's her plan, and it's not working. As I said, Judge Boreski is back in the driver's seat. All right. Question, did the juror who said that I'll do on Monday to the judge's offer for donuts make it on the jury? I don't think he did. Yeah, they didn't. They're not getting donuts. So sorry, no donuts. Jody asks, can you tell us a little bit about how Brandon handled being in court today? Yeah, so Brandon was there with his wife, Jenny. They are always there together. I actually, I think it's, I'm going to be honest, really beautiful how they always come together, especially because we know that Brandon had a volatile divorce, to say the least, as in right before his divorce, someone attempted to murder him, you know, I'm grateful to see that he has found love again. And not only that, they seem like such a solid in sync pair. They attend court each day together. And today they were sitting with the victim's advocate. And Kay Woodcock was also there with her friend and personal victim advocate, Laura. And that was, it's touching to see them there. And why is Kay here? Because she doesn't need to be. Kay has received justice for her family members, but it's because she cares so much about Brandon. Brandon is family to her, and she is here to support Brandon Boudreaux and his wife, Jenny. Lisa, thank you very much. Thank you for all you do. I appreciate donating to the caffeine fund. Cindy, thank you so much. For aspirin, if you get a headache listening to Lori's complaints. Yes, that's going to happen. So thank you. Thank you very much. Tanya, thank you. Hiding in Bev's bangs. People should stop using Vallow with Lori. She doesn't deserve Charles and JJ's name. Proud to be a gem. You and John are a great team. Thank you. I agree. She does not deserve Charles and JJ's name. There are two reasons that I still sometimes say Vallow Daybell. I also believe that she doesn't deserve Tammy Daybell's name, and many people can argue that Tammy Daybell is her married name and she's Tammy Douglas Daybell. But the truth is Tammy's children are Daybell, and the family has decided that Tammy loved her children so much she would want to have the same name as her children. She has kept the name Tammy Daybell, and you know, Tammy Daybell was murdered by Chad Daybell. She doesn't deserve the Daybell name either. We also have an excellent interview with Heather Daybell on our channel where she actually discusses the trauma she felt around having the name Daybell, but then deciding that she needed to own the name Daybell. In other words, it's complicated. Lori doesn't deserve anybody's last name. Maybe we should call her Lori Noreen. But I do use both names because that is how people know her, and the names she has had in court. While her name might be Lori Daybell for this trial, it has been Lori Vallow. And to keep people understanding and keep things clear, I choose both names often. But yes, she wants to go by Lori Daybell. Troublemaker Baker, thank you for the donation of 5 hidden true crime memberships and all you're going to be doing to help run the live stream. We appreciate you. I want to share one other thing that's really important. I actually was up until 1 a.m. last night, or I guess this morning, because even though I am here covering this trial every day, there was another case that came down. It is absolutely heartbreaking. And I wanted to get as many eyes on it as possible. So we stayed up, Grace and I stayed up to get out all the information we could on a story where somebody is wanted for murder. His name is Travis, and he is wanted now for murdering his 3 daughters. It is heartbreaking. And I also upset that an Amber Alert had not been issued. We took the girls after visitation. And this story is, it will be linked. I don't know if we have it linked or can share this story, but we need all the eyes on it we can get. A manhunt is underway. Many people have speculated if he has done, self-harm after what he did, but he is nowhere to be found. And he is also known to hitchhike, and nobody can find him. And he is considered armed and dangerous. And what he did is beyond comprehension. And while we are here working for justice for Brandon Boudreaux, and Lori Vallow is convicted of doing what she did to her own children, this has got to stop happening. There is nothing I find more despicable than parents who do this to their children. So So anyway, rest in peace, Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia, and may justice be served for them. And I hope that you'll get your eyes on that show that we also did last night. So thank you for that. It is heartbreaking. I had heard that he was possibly spotted in Idaho, to be determined. There's a lot coming out. The story is out of Washington State. It's another, and he also has ties to Idaho. Here he is. Thank you. Travis Caleb Decker, brown eyes, black hair. Anyone with information is asked to contact U.S. Marshals. Thank you for putting that up, Grayson. I was hoping for that. There is a reward offered for any information, especially everyone in these Western states. I mean, he could be anywhere, right? But let's find this man. And it's so hard to see their pictures. Let's pray for these girls' mother. Her name is Whitney. We can't imagine the grief. All three of her daughters. She would make their dresses, by the way. She would sew their dresses for all of their photo shoots, and there are many. She was a doting, loving mother. So please check out the link to learn all you can about this case. Let's find Travis. Oh, thank you. There it is. All right, everyone. Thank you for being here. Thank you for following along. Thank you for subscribing. If you do want to support our channel and can't do that through my caffeine fund or whatever, that is okay. I don't expect everyone to do that. But one way you can support our channel is by subscribing and also hitting notification. That is genuinely an excellent way to support our channel. And it's something you can do that's just free, and we appreciate it. For those that want to join on monthly membership on Patreon, patreon.com/crime. Again, we have weekly episodes up there. Grayson and I actually did a little behind the scenes episode yesterday, or was it 2 days ago? All my days are blurring together. No, yesterday, right? Yeah, we had a day off, but not really. We were busy. And so Grace and I have a new episode on patreon.com/crime where we talk our thoughts about what we've seen so far in this trial. And we will continue to have those bonus episodes. And again, all of those documents, if you want to read them yourself, are there at patreon.com/hiddentruecrime. I covered it all. We're so grateful for our community during this time. You make it possible that I can travel to these trials. Dr. John also makes it possible. He is holding down the fort at home and full-time parenting. So, all right, everyone. Thank you. Have a good night. May justice be served, and we will see you tomorrow. Opening statement.